Alright, so I just want to get started on the last video. Now I did a couple things off camera, and those couple things are pretty simple. I just added some extra materials, like I added a different material to the actual light bulb glass here, and I did a different material for this light bulb housing. And so basically, all of these different parts have, I'll go through the materials. So this is aluminum. This is the galvanized green. This is galvanized green. That's galvanized green. This is the galvanized silver. This is glass. And then I have a second glass on just the bulb part. And then I have a brass. So if I was to go into my outliner, oh, one more. I have a, I think I have another one on this too. Okay, so if I was to go into my outliner, I shouldn't say my outliner, sorry, my hypershade, which I'll pull in here, and I just went through all my materials, you would see the Lamberts are always in there, so ignore that. We have a M aluminum, M brass, M chrome. Oh, chrome is that front area in here, so that's a different one too. I forgot to name. I also did a filament material, which is on a little prong thing that's inside of the light, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. That's my own little thing, and if you want to look at my model up on my website, you can see the filament in there. So there's the galvanized silver. This is the galvanized green. I have one glass. Then I have the bulb glass, which is a different material. And then, of course, these are all my references. So I did all of the materials that are actually on the model will come into SketchFab. So I also did smooth this because I wanted to export the smooth part, the smooth one. But let's look at my poly count, because sometimes you guys, if you smooth it and you're already really high poly, you're gonna get like a crazy poly count. So right now I have 96,951 faces, or double that for triangles. So that's how many triangles I have. And after I have everything selected, I think that's fine. Like SketchFab will take that, but if you have something like 1 million or 2 million, it might just have problems with that. So from here, let's see how to export it. So to export this, we will just go export selection, okay? And I'm going to export an FBX. And so I already have one right here. So it's called lamp HP. And so what I'm going to do is, actually this is in the wrong area. You know what, that's okay. Let's just go back. I'll keep it there for now. So we'll just save it over this lamp HP, and I'll hit export selection. Okay, it's going to take a little bit, and there it went ahead and exported. Okay, so next thing I want to do is I want to jump over to SketchFab, which is right here. Okay, now I have one in here already, but I'm just going to show what I did to get this thing in here and put my different materials on it and get it looking kind of like this. Okay, so I'm going to go upload and choose file, and then it's going to the right area. So this is my lamp HP. Hit open, and then continue. All right, you can give it whatever settings you want. I'm just going to hit continue because I'm actually going to delete this. I already have the one that I want in there. So give it a second. Now this will take a bit, so I'll probably press pause, and we'll come back. Okay, we're back. Here's the model. You can see, looking decent. All right. So let's go ahead and change the 3D settings so we can get this to look right. So I'm going to hit 3D settings, and it's going to open up all the settings that I can play with and change. Okay, so let's go ahead and, first of all, to change the lighting, you can hold Alt, and you can just either left click or right click. Actually, either one works. You can actually rotate it that way. But you also can go into your light tab right here, and you can just switch your orientation. Okay. Now, the background I'm using is actually this one. And the reason why I was using that is I actually like the way it was reflecting off of the chrome part. And I'm going to go through how I did the materials really quickly, and then pretty much we'll be kind of done. So, alright, so let's see here. The first thing you want to do to get to your materials is you want to click on this little guy right there. Now we're up in the materials. And in the top you have a list of all the materials that are on here. So apparently something still has a Lambert 1, and when I get to that I'll figure out what that is. Actually, if you click anything, it actually will show you. So actually that's that piece underneath there is the Lambert 1. And that's fine. I would prefer to have it a different name, but no big deal since it's only one. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to just start with like the main part. So if I click on this, you can see it highlighted the main part, and then it's going to bring up the name of that. So this is my M galvanized. Okay, so then if I want to pull in a color, I can just come into here and I can go ahead and hit texture, or I can hit import texture. So since there's no texture on there, I have to import it. So I have to go find where these textures are, and I have them locked away in a special place, and that's not the special place. It's in here. Okay, so basically I'm using just one texture. That's all I made. Now, if I was doing a complete mapping of this thing, I would do bump maps and spec maps and everything, but I decided just to leave it as a diffuse map for this first time. So I can just go ahead and hit import texture. Oops, wait, we already did that. Sorry, just close this then. We should have it already. Yeah, it's this guy right there. Okay, so see, you can see now the texture is showing up on here. Okay, now we have this set to a PBR Metalness workflow, and that's what we want. Okay, so I want my metalness for this one to be up a little bit higher because it is a metal object. It's a form of galvanized metal. And I'm going to switch this from glossiness to roughness. You can see all of a sudden now it got really shiny. But we probably don't want it quite that shiny. We want it probably somewhere around there. Now it's looking pretty cool. That might even be a little bit too much if we're basing it solely on what the object actually looked like. So that looks pretty good. So you can see how different that looks just from adding one little texture and adjusting it. So really the rest of this is sort of a wash, rinse, repeat. Like the only one that's a little bit different is the glass and the filament one that I have. So I'll show you how I do the filament, so if you decide you want to do it, you can. So I'm going to go through here and just grab these different materials. So that's the M galvanized green, and I actually can use the same texture. So now there's a box here that says choose texture. So I can just go ahead and click on that, and there's my texture. And now I just want to set this up the same way as I set up the other one. I'm going to turn the metalness all the way up, and I can turn up my glossiness a little bit, like so. And I can play around with my specular too. Specular will like kind of increase. The specular and reflections are actually different. Reflections is actually like the real thing, and specular is like a faked reflection. It's like a little highlight that's on that we make in the CG world. So like this could be a specular right there, but a reflection would be like the actual reflection of the environment. So actually I forgot to switch to roughness. Let's do that, and let's turn this down. So basically when you see the stars in here, that's considered a reflection. But if you see just like a highlight, and it's just a little highlight from like a light or something, that's usually considered specular. So just to get the terminology out there so you understand the difference. Okay, so that looks interesting. Let's see. I like that. All right, we'll do the aluminum, which is a lot of the parts are aluminum. So now, of course, I didn't show the aluminum in the last video, how I made it, but it was the same step as all the other steps. So it was just a matter of tiling it and placing it as a pattern on the texture layer that I made from the bake. So so in here, I'm going to go ahead and just choose that same texture because it's got aluminum in there, right there. And you can see, let's see what my aluminum looks like. It's just kind of this like kind of speckled metal. Pretty simple. Okay, and then from here, I'm going to change it to roughness, and we'll make it. This is the metal's got to go. Now, you don't have to turn the metal all the way up, but if it is metal, it usually has, it has a certain kind of reflective property. But in this case, like this aluminum is kind of dull, so I'm going to turn it pretty high up like that as far as the roughness goes. So I'm just increasing the roughness. Alright, so now we got that. I can increase the specularity, lower it. You see it doesn't seem like it's changing that much. That's probably because of the amount of roughness that I have. So you can barely tell that it's making a difference. So I'm going to leave it about right like that. Like that. That's pretty good. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to the next one. You can see got the bottom in there too. It's pretty cool. All right, let's grab the glass. So this is where it gets a little bit different. So the glass doesn't at this point really have a map on it. So I'm just going to go to opacity and I'm going to play with this. So I actually am doing refraction right now, and then I'm just going to drop down the opacity on here, and you'll start to see through it. Okay, now it looks like really thick glass right now. So what we want to do is we actually want to change our index of refraction. So this is our refraction. So this is actually pretty thin stuff. So instead of looking like really thick like that, we actually want to thin it out. Kind of like... That's actually even too thick, honestly. But you know what? I don't want, like, if you want it to look a little bit thicker, that's okay. If that's up to you. But this is pretty close to what it really looks like. It's a thin acrylic type plastic. So I'm going to go ahead now and play with the roughness of this. So let's mess around with this a little bit, like so. And it's not metal, so you're going to want this to be all the way black or at 0. And then you can see the specular highlight. We can play around with there. This one you can actually see it a lot better changing. So that's pretty good. See, that's not really hard. Okay, so let's go to the next part. We'll go to the glass bulb. Now, this is interesting. I'll show you what happens if you try to do another refractive material. It'll actually disappear once you see that. You won't even see it. Okay, you can see the filament inside of there that I made. Okay, so if you use an additive material though, that will work. So we're gonna go ahead and just lower that a little bit. And actually, if you want it to look a little bit lit, you can leave a little bit, a little bit extra there. So the additive material actually, it basically adds to the white. So if there's some white in there, it will add to it. And actually, let's see what happens when we choose the texture. How does that change it? Because the texture is white as well. So let's see here. I didn't actually even try this part on mine, but you could do that too. Like you can load the texture in. All right. So if you want to play with these, you can try blending. You can try dithered. But I found that the additive one I thought looked the best. Okay, so go to our next one. So that was the bulb. And what else do we have? So I think the last thing is, I haven't played with Lambert yet. So this is the second to the last actually. Change the roughness, we'll change it. This thing is a little bit shiny. It almost looks like porcelain, but I think it is still metal. So I'm gonna turn that up. And this one, I don't really have a color for, a texture for. So I'm using color, and then the color is basically just almost white. So go like that, and I'll take the metalness down a little bit, like so. And let's see what happens if we... Yeah, that looks about right. That looks good. Okay, so we're almost there. We got to get the chrome. Now, chrome is interesting. You would think that you would want it white in your color, but actually chrome you want to be black. So I'm just going to use the color instead of using the texture. So just color, and then I'm going to just turn it all the way black. It's sort of unintuitive, but it is the way you do chrome. So turn the metalness on, turn on roughness, and then turn the roughness way low. And then, should be seeing something there. I'm not actually seeing anything. What am I missing here? That's the chrome. I don't feel like I'm even seeing any change in that material. Oh wait, well, that actually looks better. It should look something like that. Like that. But it's technically should be metal, but I think it has to do with maybe if I have it metal and it's black, it's handling it different. But if you're in Maya and you want like a chrome material, typically you have to have the color as black. So anyway, it appears in SketchFab it's a little bit different. So this is the settings that I have to make that look chrome, which is fine if it doesn't, work out how I normally do it, but that's fine as long as it looks good. And then let's just do the last thing, which is the filament. So I made an extra material for this filament, and then that filament you would just go into emissive here, and then you could just change it to color, and then make it like I made mine kind of a orangish, yellowish, or something like that. And then I just turn this way up. Oh, and I forgot, I have one more thing. I have a brass. I should have a brass, right? Might not have mentioned that. Okay, here's the brass. Yeah. So the brass, it actually imported the color that I had, which is nice. Brass is super easy for this one. I just went like this and about right there, and turned the metal all the way up. And you can see the brass looks pretty cool just by doing that. Okay, so that's the settings in SketchFab. Now, there's all kinds of other stuff you can play with if you like and have some fun with. These are good post-processing and stuff. I probably should play with that. Oh, here, bloom, actually. Now this is where you would play with that the light that we put in there. If you want to make the light kind of burst out more. See that? So you do something like that if you wanted. And then of course you go back to your lighting. I like the reflections off of here, but if I wanted to turn the brightness down, let's see here. Brightness is tied to the bloom apparently, so let's see if we can change the light intensity down. Let's look at our bloom. It looks okay. I kind of liked it before though. But it's just stuff you can play with to see how it turns out. But it looks pretty interesting. So the next thing you want to do is just get it into the orientation that you want, and you can actually hit Save View right here. So Save View, and then it'll be oriented the way you want it. And then you can just hit Publish. So I am not going to publish this one because I already have one published. So that's, that's okay. I won't publish this one, but once you save the view and publish it, and then embed it on your website, of course, on your page, that will be the totality of the extra credit work. So that's it. I hope you had a fantastic class. I hope you learned a lot by modeling this object, and hope to make more lessons to further your learning. So thanks for watching, and have a great summer.